Welcome to Conflict News 2042. Some updates for you on the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. Firstly, an update on what happened yesterday when Wagner fighters started their march for justice towards Moscow. Then a mediation came from Belarus. Where is Yevgeny Prigozhin now? Is he in Russia? Is in Belarus? Secondly, why is that West is supporting Ukraine? Several answers to this question. This is very debatable point. But a member of EU Parliament shed some light on one of the reasons behind Western support of Ukraine. Over 3 million hectares of agri-land in Ukraine are now owned by Western companies. And this process of ownership of Ukrainian lands by Western companies has intensified, especially after the start of the war. Thirdly, a cruise missile strike from Ukraine on the outskirts of Luhansk city today. Firstly, viewers, a quick update for you on what happened in the last 48 hours when Wagner fighters started their march for justice towards Ministry of Defense in Moscow. Yevgeny Prigozhin, Wagner chief, said that in a rocket attack, some Wagner fighters had been killed. The rocket attack was carried out allegedly by Russian forces. Infuriated, he launched his attempt to attack Ministry of Defense of Russia in Moscow. His Wagner fighters entered southern Russia. They took control of Rostov-on-Don. People welcomed them, by the way. Wagner fighters were warmly welcomed by people in southern Russia. Russian Air Force started conducting airstrikes. Wagner fighters entered Voronezh and they were attempting to move towards Moscow. Then came mediation from Belarus. Alexander Lukashenko, Belarusian president, mediated between Prigozhin and Putin. He talked to both the sides and then Prigozhin agreed to stop the march towards Moscow. Some guarantees have been given to Prigozhin. Prigozhin is reportedly now in Belarus. Putin allowed him to be in Belarus. Belarus, Putin's ally. Putin is not going to remove Prigozhin immediately. Why? Because obviously Wagner has its presence across the world, in Syria, in Central African Republic, in other parts of the world. Thousands of Wagner fighters are based in, of course, Ukraine too, from where they withdrew. So, who is leading these Wagner fighters? Obviously, Prigozhin. It seemed that if Putin tried to eliminate Prigozhin, Wagner fighters across the world would not accept it. They could go rogue. That is why I think Putin will tolerate Prigozhin until he has a better alternative. Prigozhin reportedly has arrived in Belarus, and those who supported Prigozhin, no charges will be pressed against them. But we'll see in coming days what happens. Meanwhile, a rumor going around that Minister of Defense Sergei Shoigu could be replaced and Gerasimov to Chief of Staff, but so far no official announcement. Overall matter has been solved, viewers. It was being hoped by the West and US that this mutiny in Russia could be a challenge for Putin, and Putin's operation in Ukraine could face serious problem due to this internal problem. But Putin very smartly handled the issue. He requested Lukashenko. Lukashenko mediated, issue largely resolved. But Putin has lost Wagner in Ukraine. It's difficult for Putin now to deploy Wagner in Ukraine. Let's see. And I think there could be changes to Ministry of Defense too. Will Shoigu be removed? Let's see. That remains to be seen. Secondly, viewers, Member of Parliament from UK has levelled some allegations. Why is the West supporting Ukraine? Why is US supporting Ukraine? While we know that West and US say that Russia could one day reach center of Europe too. Russia could blackmail entire Europe, US. That is why this is the time to stop Russia. But Mick Wallace, a UK Member of Parliament known for his views which are not mainstream views on different issues, he spoke a few hours ago and he said that Western companies are now in possession of more lands in Ukraine than they were before the start of war. After the start of war in Ukraine, Western companies bought agri-lands in Ukraine. Opposition parties opposed this move. Zelensky banned opposition parties. Zelensky is concentrating power. Over 3 million hectares of land are now owned by Western companies. Mick Wallace mentioned Ukraine's mineral resources too, that Ukraine has mineral resources worth around 12 trillion US dollars, and Western companies are eyeing Ukraine's mineral wealth. Well, nothing comes for free in international politics. Yes, West, Europe, US, they are concerned that Russia could hit center of Europe one day, but they're not providing support to Ukraine for free. Of course, they want to get as many benefits from Ukraine as they can. Lastly, a missile strike by Ukrainian forces on Luhansk city, not on the city, but in the outskirts of city. A loud explosion was heard a few hours ago today. Reportedly, Russian military command center was hit. A cruise missile was fired by Ukrainian forces in the outskirts of Luhansk city. No details about the damage so far, but locals of the area confirm this strike. No statement from Ukrainian government so far, but Russian anti-air defense systems, anti-air systems are unable to stop Ukrainian missiles, it seems. Watch a clip of Mick Wallace speaking about the Western interests in Ukraine. Thank you for watching.
The damage to Ukraine is devastating. Towns and cities that endured for hundreds of years don't exist anymore. We must recognise that these towns, cities and surrounding lands were long been stolen by local oligarchs colluding with global financial capital. This theft quickened with the onset of the war in 2014. The pro-Western government opened the doors wide for massive structural adjustment and privatisation programmes spearheaded by the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the IMF and the World Bank. Zelensky used the current war to concentrate power and accelerate the corporate fire sale. He banned opposition parties that were resisting deeply unpopular reforms to the laws restricting the sale of land to foreign investors. Over 3 million hectares of agricultural land are now owned by companies based in Western tax havens. Ukraine's mineral deposits alone are worth over $12 trillion. Western companies are licking their lips. What are the working class people